Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo, meine Leute. Willkommen zum dem einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast. This is episode 118 of SchalkeMerica, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. Joining me on the show, as always, is co-host Jack Mangan. How you doing, man?
I'm doing probably better than you are because
Yes.
You were not just a 4-goal negative difference for the Derby weekend. You were 7-0 as a Milan supporter as well. Are you okay? That's the question I have.
No. What's that old Duncan Sheik song? I'm barely breathing or whatever it is. That's what it is right now. And then to make things worse, we got a little civil war going on in the Schalke camp. Crazy things going on right now, huh?
Yeah, before we get into the match or any other news, I just wanted to take a moment to address the Schalke community, or at least the portion of it that's online. And this is going to come across as almost certainly super melodramatic, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is Twitter drama, which, how impactful can that really be? But I do think it's slightly important, just because I feel like it could potentially be heralding some things that could be coming down amongst the supporter base as the season continues and likely continues to deteriorate. So, for those of you who haven't seen what's going on online, I'm not going to explain it. If you did, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you didn't, hopefully you'll get something out of this anyway. But what I would say is this, first and foremost: as Schalke supporters, every single one of us is going through it right now. We are all watching something that we are highly invested in and that we care about deeply. We're watching its demise. That's probably, not its demise, but we're watching it collapse, it deteriorate. And that's really tough. And all of us are feeling that right now. It doesn't matter if you've been a fan for 50 years, if you've been a fan for 5 years. It doesn't matter if you're 80 years old or 10 years old. It doesn't matter if you live within a couple minutes of the stadium or if you live on a different continent. We all are feeling this. And so what I would say is that I feel as though anybody who's claiming or trying to claim special ownership or special access to specific feelings or a specific intensity of feelings or anything, I don't think that's productive. I don't think it's helpful. I don't even think it's really correct, because I don't think anyone has more ownership over disappointment or whatever in terms of what's going on. I think everyone is feeling things and feeling it deeply, and we all have unique perspectives, no matter who we are, that I think can contribute and be part of the conversation and can add value to the community. So as long as you claim to be a fan of the club and you are living up to the values of the club, as far as I'm concerned, like, you're one of us and we're all in this together, and there's no need to try to jockey for, special status in terms of how upset you are about something, or in terms of, how real of a supporter you are. I don't think that's useful. So I would say that. And then, so if you're somebody who thinks that way, I would just urge you to reconsider whether or not you really think that's true. And if it is true, in your opinion, whether or not you really think that's helpful to even talk about right now, and that's going to accomplish anything for us as we continue into the season. To sort of the other party, the larger group in this situation, and really to all Schalke supporters in general, I would say the exact same thing that I've already said, which is this: we are all in this together. And as a result, once again, all of us are going through this emotional turmoil. We're all frustrated. We're all angry. We're all tired. And that is going to build up. We've seen one Bundesliga win in the past 13 months. Like, people are going to be emotional. Tensions are high. And people are going to say some unfortunate things at times, because that's going to boil over, and that frustration is going to cause some outbursts. And those statements might be incorrect in the opinions of some. They might be regrettable. But what I would say to everybody is, I think we all need to try to have a little bit of patience and compassion for our fellow supporters, and realize that all of us are going to have days where perhaps we kind of lose it a little bit and lose the plot, and maybe step over the line in terms of some of the things we're saying, but it probably all comes from the same source of frustration in that. So everyone just try to chill out, be patient with each other, be compassionate. Let's try to stay on the same team and be pulling in the same direction. If we don't, it's only going to make things worse as we navigate the rest of the season and potentially a different league next year. So thank you for indulging me for the first 5 minutes of this, and that's all I have to say about that.
You're leaving our guests waiting, huh? Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. It's what we've seen here. I mean, it's happened. It's progressively gotten worse and worse through the weeks. But obviously, after a Derby loss, tensions are going to be max high. We're having a civil war within our own camp, where people are just going at each other. different fan bases, even our own fan bases, celebrating and they're going at each other's throats. And I think there's no better person to bring on our podcast than someone who's known for going at our throats. And albeit one of the biggest, he's one of the biggest criticizers of his own fan base from recent derbies. And of course, I'm talking about our cousin from the Ruhr Valley. I'm talking about Critty Smith. Welcome to the show, Critty. How are we doing this evening?
Doing well, gentlemen. It's been far too long, but as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Critty reporting somewhere live from a graveyard, I presume.
Yes.
Are you somewhere behind Velton's Arena right now?
I think so. There's trains. There's all sorts. I mean, I'm in the industrial park here, man. I might be on first 48.
Well, it's good. It's good to be with you. It's good to have you back on. It's been quite a while, sir.
Absolutely. It's been far too long.
And you heard some of Jack's comments there. There is a obviously a civil war going on right now at Schalke fan base. We've been pushing the hashtag all of us gemeinsam, and we need to be more together than any time before. It's been so difficult. But speaking of someone who comes from the opposite fan base from Dortmund, you were heavily critical of your own fan base after the win. Can you go into more some of the tweet that you made and some of the things you saw from your end?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I know this is becoming an unpopular topic, but they broke COVID protocol. Most of them did when they did the celebration in the streets. I saw fans, understand the severity. It doesn't matter if you're a Dortmund fan, a Mainz fan, a Frankfurt fan, Leverkusen fan. Schalke is a Traditionsverein, and they are, as England likes to talk about their top six all the time, Schalke is a perennial top six German club. They have a massive Mitglieds number, so membership. Members as far as like totals are concerned in the country. They have there been an article I wrote just 5 years ago about being perennially ranked in the Forbes top 20 most valuable clubs. I mean, this is honestly a giant when it comes to the size, the structure, the foundation, and the tradition. While it's been a long time, 8-time German champions, obviously they're tied with Nuremberg, I believe that's second all time, I think, behind Bayern. As a Dortmund, from a Dortmund perspective, this is this not having a derby next year inside the league is a shame. I mean, this is something that all Dortmund fans look forward to. Win, lose, or draw. This is to me the biggest rivalry in Germany because it's literally next door neighbors. Gelsenkirchen and Dortmund, they're right next to each other. And I think if you're someone who just goes through, say, you try to keep up with the leagues, it's interesting to me. If you're someone who just goes on the ESPN app or what have you, and you look at like, oh, what's the table in Germany like, and you don't really pay attention to the Bundesliga, but you see Schalke in 18th place, the question is obviously, around the world in German is, was ist mit den Königsblauen los? And, what's wrong with the Royal Blues? This is a situation that has been, I've seen as a Dortmund supporter brewing at Schalke for a long time, but yet it hasn't really hit rock bottom until this year. I go back to 2014-15 when they were challenging for Champions League spot. And then you had the issues like with Kevin Prince Boateng, and that team had obviously had Leon Goretzka, Max Meyer. Goretzka couldn't wait to get out of town. Max Meyer left as a complete spoiled child. Obviously, there's been more players come and go since, but they've always managed to hang on. That was under the leadership of Horst Held, who I would attribute as one of the main factors that has sort of started putting dents in the armor, if you will. This going back, like I said, 2014-15 season. Schalke finished in a UEFA Europa League spot that year. They missed the Champions League. There was some, I thought, with Markus Weinziel. I thought they had an excellent hire from Augsburg. He actually got Augsburg into the Europa League. They lost narrowly to Liverpool 1-0 that season in the round of 32, I believe it was. That's Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, by the way. That was Klopp's first season. So Weinziel comes in, starts off no wins, no draws, 5 losses. But the type of football that he plays, the way he manages, Schalke didn't have the personnel for that. So it's going to take a while. Panic button is pushed. He's sacked. Off the top of my head, I forgot who they brought in at that very moment, but I know they ended up obviously going with
Breitenreiter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, was it Breitenreiter?
No, it was Breitenreiter then Weinziel. I don't even remember anymore.
Di Matteo was in there similar too.
Well, he was before during the Champions League. Yeah,
exactly. Di Matteo was in there.
I appreciate the comments you're making though, because I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of a disagreement among Schalke supporters and Dortmund supporters about this. So we're not, I don't think everyone that supports these teams would agree. But I felt the same way. I mean, there was a season under Klopp where Dortmund got off to an awful start, and there were some beginning conversations, probably premature, about potential of Dortmund getting relegated at one point. And I felt the same way at that time, which is this is not good for the league, for the brand, that kind of thing. I mean, a healthy Dortmund, a healthy Schalke, I think is good for the Bundesliga. But as far as, I mean, COVID protocols aside, that the celebrations from Dortmund supporters, I understand because it's still a derby. This is not a team that you should be particularly proud of beating at this point. And so
my comment to be exact was Dortmund supporters acted like they just beat Bayern on match day 34 to win the Bundesliga. Like that's how they were acting. This was not this. If you exchange the names of the club, say this is Greuther Fürth or I don't know, Bielefeld instead of Schalke, Dortmund supporters would have gone to a bar and they would have had a pint and they would have gone home. I mean, this is it's just because it's Schalke, but it's like this is not this Schalke to me is absolutely surreal. Like the fact that I'm talking about a club that has 9 points, 20 match days into the season, and my question is, I, as a Liverpool supporter, I'm also seeing that they're loaning out one of their best defensive talents to Liverpool. Obviously, I know why Liverpool need him because Virgil van Dijk's hurt, Joe Gomez is hurt, Matip is hurt, also former Schalke player, by the way, Joe Matip. He was, on that 14-15 team. But what's in it for Schalke to give out Kabak to Liverpool when they themselves are on a sinking ship? I mean, is it just the loan fee that's going to save? I don't understand any of, and this is what Richard and I were talking about kind of through text a couple weeks ago, is just the mismanagement, just the utter BS mismanagement of this club that, like, to me started sort of with Horst Held. That's the guy I guess I remember closely following Schalke's sort of demise, if you will, into the swamp. But then you would have a season. Tedesco wins the derby. He gets them to the Champions League. He loses to Man City, which there's no shame in that. He gets them to the knockout stage.
Or the half season under David Wagner before it all fell apart.
Right.
As well.
I
understand. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of resistance, I think, from Schalke supporters about the Horst Held thing. The good news though is that, I mean, well, it depends on, good news or not. I'm not rooting for people to, lose positions and stuff. But if you're talking about mismanagement, there's been rumors this week that there's going to be some significant upheaval in terms of the supervisory board and some other stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the podcast too. So,
but then there was the sporting director they brought over from Mainz.
Heidel.
Yeah, and that he was going to be the savior because look what he did at Mainz. He hired Jürgen Klopp. He hired Thomas Tuchel. Mainz has been in the Bundesliga, I think, now going on 15 years without relegation. I mean, they're not a big club, but this guy has managed to bring all sorts of talents. I mean, into Mainz, and then obviously see them on to bigger and better things. That was failed. I mean, it's surreal. It's like with this much talent, this much money, and this brings back to the article that I wrote about Schalke being such a tremendous German success. Here you have clubs in this Forbes top 20. There's 3 German clubs in there. It's Bayern, Dortmund, and Schalke, and that's it. And you're surrounded by Inter, Milan, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea. But Schalke is right there, like number 16, number 15. To me, what's happening to them this season. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are local in the country, in Germany. No one had them finishing lower than 12th. Nobody. I mean, and that was like, this will be a rebound season. They'll sort of lick their wounds, and they'll come back next season. They'll be back in the top 6 again, no problem, no questions asked.
Curdy, I think this is a long time coming for Schalke. I think it's been a band-aid that we've been fixing for years, and it's finally came to the point where, I mean, just look at what we happened this past weekend, right? We played the REVIERDERBY. We know it was going to be bad because the last couple ones have been pretty bad, right? You guys have whooped our butts pretty convincingly. You guys got a freaking stud in Erling Haaland who just can score no matter what.
He scores against smaller clubs, though, to be honest with you, Richard.
He still scores goals, though. He still scores goals.
He scores goals, but
I'll take him.
What is he doing against the Bavarians? That's what I'm. Dortmund measures their success against Bayern, and Bayern could beat them with like their second team if they wanted to. So Haaland, he's great, but he scores hat tricks against Mainz and against Bielefeld. He's not doing that against Bayern and Leipzig and those guys.
Yeah, at least you guys
Gritty, with all due respect, I'd probably take what I can from Haaland and be happy about it before he leaves and goes somewhere else. Because then you won't have to worry about him not. You're not going to have to worry about him not performing against Bayern for long. If that's
Haaland's got more goals than Schalke this season. But that aside, I mean, you guys whooped us pretty convincingly again.
Sure.
I think the first half I thought.
Phil Bonnie in the chat, by the way. What's up, Phil?
Phil Bonnie's in the chat. Hey, Phil, what's up, Phil? Haaland did score against Bayern. That is true. So it was interesting in the game. We know the lineups that came out. I thought we knew we were going to get blitzed at some point in the game, but I thought Schalke, despite playing fairly well, they were giving up a lot of possession, giving a lot of shots, but nothing really too dangerous, I think, against Schalke. For the first 35 minutes or so, Schalke was doing better than expected against Dortmund, I think I would say.
Right.
And then eventually,
here's the classic first 25 minutes for Schalke before the 3-4 goal collapse happens every week. Yeah. It
seems like we were doing fine until one big mistake when Stambouli made this unexpected, I guess expected mistake, gave it away, and Sancho puts it away 1-0 right off the bat, and then just minutes later, Erling Haaland with a freaking world-class goal, nice volley with that. Ochipka really gave him way too much room to score on. So 2-0 going into half. What were you thinking just before those 2 goals went in? Because at that point, it looked like maybe Schalke were going to try to fight this one out and make it an interesting battle. What were your thoughts, just before those goals happened?
I mean, before those goals happen, it's a rivalry. This is a as I said, to me, it's the grittiest, most hard-fought rivalry in the entire Bundesliga. I think this is so obviously Schalke is going to come with everything they have. I mean, this is one, you'll take a 0-0 in this instance because that's almost like a victory for this season, Schalke against Dortmund. Yeah. So, and this is a Dortmund team. Let's not forget they've lost to Bundesliga powerhouse teams such as Augsburg and Mainz in the past few weeks. So that's why pumping your chest for beating, no offense to Schalke, the last place team in the league. It's the REVIERDERBY, but still, I mean, let's consider where people are. This is the team, like I said, that just lost to Augsburg. I don't know their exact place right now, but I know Mainz is in the relegation drop zone. So
they're in our sphere as opposed to yours.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I mean, I was thinking this was going to probably be a pretty hard fought 1-0 or 2-0 because I mean, Schalke doesn't score goals, so I wasn't really worried about the opposite happening of anything going through our net. But I thought, Schalke is going to probably play this thing with a Fünferkette, Viererkette, most back 4, back 5, whatever. I mean, just basically, as the Germans say, Bolzen. As soon as the ball comes into your penalty area, you just kick it as far as you can in the opposite direction. Let Dortmund play, get their build up going and just wait for the mistake, the failed pass to come and just kick it, as far as you can. Do that for 90 minutes and maybe you get a cheeky draw. When those two goals came, I mean, that was it because Schalke can't match you firepower for firepower.
Yeah, I think once those 2 goals happened, Jack, it seemed, especially after that first goal, it seems like our spirit was broken immediately. I mean, we were doing fairly well considering it was a 0-0 game and they had majority of the possession. As soon as that mistake happened from Stambouli, I think our spirit was gone, down 2-0. They came out in the second half, scored another 2 goals, and not albeit early, but I mean, 60th minute and 79th minute.
Yeah. a number of psychological blows early, though. I mean, first of all, you have
Yeah.
Mustafi being removed from the starting lineup right beforehand because of injury. So Chipka has to slide in from left back to center back, something we've seen him do on occasion, but, it's certainly not ideal.
And Fairman.
Yeah, and then, of course, Ralph Fairman as well. Hurts, I believe, was an abdominal strain or something along those lines, unable to continue. And you have, Frederick Rano also injured, of course. So it's Michel Lango that comes in. So those are, and for Fairman, that's kind of like your club legend at the moment. That's your leader, that kind of thing. So that's a big psychological hit as well. But I kind of want to challenge the idea that that we started this game off that well in the first place, though, because the things, partially what led to the Stambouli goal is Stambouli being Stambouli, but the other parts of that, you could see this coming early on. I think, as early as like inside the fifth minute or so, Kolasinac picks up a ball in the box. No one around him, midfielders, center backs, spreads out spaces, becomes available. He kind of hesitates, looks upfield, and then, boots the ball to no one ultimately. It's the second somebody has possession, it's all ball watching. I don't know if this is like Harit programming people into this because he's been spending so much time on the ball the last couple games, but it's static. There's nothing going on in transition. We all know our struggle is to break teams down in the final third. The only way we can score goals is really on the break. And there was no effort being put into our counterattacking game in the first place. And so when you see the first goal from Stambouli, it's partially because Harit picks up the ball. No one is moving around him to find an outlet. So he kind of dribbles around for a second. And to be fair, he kind of puts Stambouli in a bad situation. But yeah, it's a spacing issue. It's a movement issue, and we're not providing each other with options. And so it wasn't surprising that eventually we're going to have a bad giveaway in a situation like that.
I guess I should clarify saying that we were playing good in the sense that we weren't giving up goals. Because you're right 100% about all those plays there. We didn't look at it all. There's several plays where, Harit and others in our own box are trying to make cheeky plays. Like, what are you doing? You're you're giving us heart attacks left and right. You're like,
Stambouli lost another ball inside the 8th minute, which took 4 or 5 Schalke defenders outside of the play, which led to a Jadon Sancho shot on goal earlier, foreshadowing what was going to happen, 15, 20 minutes later. So, tough. The second goal for Haaland, Ochipka should be probably marking him a little bit closer than that, but he's also not a center back. And it's a phenomenal goal from a phenomenal player. You just kind of got to tip your hat at that point.
Yeah, and I just 4-0 losing the derby. The last thing we want to hear, and I know Jack beat people to the punch, but Schalke null fear. Nobody wanted to see that. We knew that was coming, and I knew once they scored that third goal, they're going to go for that fourth one. They're probably just going to stop after that.
That's such a that joke is so outdated.
It is.
Come on.
It happens too often to us. That's why.
Yeah, two things. I should have put my cafe lights on, then you guys could see me. So I
thought you were in the park. We're gonna have to watch you. Make sure you didn't get mugged.
No, the park. No, my backyard actually opens up into the park. So that's the cool thing. I don't have any backside neighbors. My back door literally goes into a park. So it's actually my gate's right there.
No, but
I could have put the cafe lights. I could have put the cafe lights on the deck, and then we could all be seeing each other. But number two. I see. This is what I find hard to believe. As I just mentioned, the two Bundesliga powerhouses that have victories over Dortmund in the past couple of weeks, that being Mainz and Augsburg. You can't even just take tactics out of it for a second. I know tactics are very important in football, and I know that they win games, they lose games, but Schalke's roster is still more talented than either of the two clubs I just mentioned. And there's absolutely no reason, even if the players just say, hey, in a locker room, players only, whatever, this is the Revierderby. We cannot lose this match, certainly not in that fashion. We'll just put 10 guys in the box. Do whatever you have to do to keep this thing, to keep these balls up.
I think last year we saw a similar thing with Werder Bremen, right? Because Werder Bremen, they're a very talented team, and they were sitting at the bottom of the table fighting relegation until the very last day. I think it was
what season are you talking about? They've done
that's true. That's true.
Quite often in the past.
Yeah, this is true.
Years.
But still, it's a matter of, yes, we have the talent to not be in this position where we're at, but unfortunately, nobody is on the same page. I don't know if it was Phil or whoever said on the telecast that, the guys have the talent, but they're just not on the same page whatsoever. And frankly, if you're not on the same page, because you could take a team that has no talent, but if they're on the same page, you're going to get stuff done. You can at least get a result. Schalke's not doing that at the moment. This is arguably a Zweite Bundesliga club that we're watching before our eyes, and it's hard to say that. It's hard.
Let's talk tactics for a second, though. Schalke basically came out and mirrored Dortmund, and except for nothing in terms of the way they were actually playing within that system, mirrored each other. Dortmund's coming out. There's a lot of high pressure. There's a lot of counter pressing. Schalke, their line of confrontation is insanely deep. They're allowing the Dortmund center backs to literally just walk the ball across the midfield line and slowly figure out where they want to go with it. There's nothing. I mean, it's just so yeah. You could talk about the talent of the players. And maybe at the end of the day, this is the players' responsibility too, because they're not just executing the things they're being told to execute. But I mean, just some of the way we're approaching the games at times, you're questioning what instructions they're being given in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, we need to win games. We have to score goals. Why are we setting up shop against Dortmund with that deep of a block? Like, are we trying to win games on like the odd corner from a header? I mean, like, what are we doing? Like, we have to go for it at this point. We have nothing to lose. If we continue to play the way we're going to play, we are going to be relegated, and we're probably going to be relegated like regardless. But why is this our approach right now? It's insane to me. Anyway,
our next game is against Stuttgart, and the Stuttgart American club tweeted us and said, "Hey, every match is huge, but how enormous is this weekend against Stuttgart? Is it the final must-win game and confidence level? Traveling to Stuttgart, what is it on a scale of 1 to 1893? It's 1893. I mean, we have so many games left, 12 games left or whatever. We have to win at minimum 5 to 6 games to survive. We need to win this weekend. I mean, you have to win games against teams. There's teams that you should be able to beat, fairly around the same level as you, but you have to steal some wins as well too.
Yeah.
We could have got one from Dortmund, but obviously that's gonna be hard. But you got to beat Stuttgart. You got to find some ways to get wins. I mean, I don't care if you do it 1-0. Do whatever you got to do. 11 people behind the ball. Play Mourinho style football if you want. But still, you got to get the results. And I think that Critty, at this point, there's, like I said, 5 to 6 wins are expected. Where is that going to come from?
Well, first of all, Jack, I agree with you wholeheartedly on the fact that Schalke has to play a different way, except if you do that, just giving Dortmund credit where credit's due, because they do have a very talented roster, albeit 2 players in Sancho and Haaland that will not be there very, very shortly because they can't afford them, A, and B, other people can. Dortmund likes to fancy themselves as this upper elite echelon European club, but they're a sellers club. Let's be honest. That's just the cold hard reality. When you have a player like a Haaland that comes around, he sees you as a doorstep to the next great thing. So
good night, Phil.
Enjoy them while you can, but they're gone. But while they're there, if Schalke does take that step and they say, "Hey, we're going to play like Bayern, we're going to go all out," then you can get punished very severely. Now, Stuttgart, a team that's winning games by results of 1-0, like they did last weekend. These kind of teams. Yeah, absolutely. Schalke can go for the jugular. They can try and try to score goals, get some offense going. Move the ball forward. Don't play in your defensive third. Make sure that whatever you do against these smaller clubs that you should beat on paper, don't mess around with the ball in your half of the pitch. I mean, get it to the opposing team's third, so you can at least create chances.
I understand the point you're making. I just feel like at this point in the season, it's kind of too late for that anyway, and we don't have the luxury of. I mean, I don't think we need to be approaching every game super differently. Like, hey, let's go for it against this team. Let's not go for it against this team. We just kind of have to go for it. And the thing is, it doesn't matter who we're playing. The approach that we're doing right now is resulting in the same scorelines every week. Doesn't matter if it's Dortmund or if it's significantly lower teams. We're shipping goals against everybody. Yeah. So I mean, to be like, well, we need to sit back a little bit more against Dortmund so they don't burn us. Like, I mean, it's not just Dortmund that's doing this.
I think a prime example.
We have to put emphasis, in my opinion, on the offense. Since the Hoffenheim game, we have had like one game, which I think maybe one game in the last like 7, where we've had an XG of more than 1.
Yeah,
like we are not going to score goals unless we really emphasize that. I know it's easier said than done, but like nothing we are doing in the approach is facilitating that.
I want to ask you guys a question because I'm a Bundesliga historian. I love the league, and I when I was growing up in Germany, I watched some great teams. I used to watch Karlsruhe, for example, play in the Europa League on those weeknight matches, and they were. I guess back then it was the UEFA Cup. But anyways, FC Kaiserslautern being the first team to go from the second Bundesliga, get promoted, and win the league the very next season in the top flight. And then, of course, the comes with that Champions League, right? That's like what fairy tales are made of. But then you have these 2 clubs now. When you talk about them, where are they? One's in the second Bundesliga, one's in the third. And I think Kaiserslautern's actually right in front of the drop zone to be relegated into the Regionalliga. So also one huge club that I want to bring up that is a traditional top 6 power if you go before the last 10 years is Hamburg. Hamburg is Champions League winners. They're multiple-time Bundesliga winners. And
where have they been the last couple of years?
They have fallen completely off the rails with bad management, bad transfers, tons of debt, tons of bad money deals. They were supposed to be one of those clubs that went down. This is what everybody looks at as the sort of the silver lining. Oh, we'll get relegated, but then we'll come right back up and we'll be a reborn club.
Exactly.
Hamburg hasn't come right back up. Hamburg is in their third season in the second Bundesliga, and it's not guaranteed. I mean, they're in good position right now, but it's not guaranteed. They've been in the top 2 with a couple of match days left to go before, and they've fallen out into 4th place, and they don't even get to go to the relegation playoff. So I ask you guys, what seriously, if Schalke drops down, what do you see what do you see happening in terms of player contracts? Who's going to be there next season? Does Schalke come back as a rejuvenated club that kicks ass and takes names in the top flight, or are we seeing a Karlsruhe or Kaiserslautern come out of this?
I think it's going to be a youth movement. It's going to have to be, because you're going to sell all these contracts. You can't afford them. Guys are not going to want to stay. And then you're going to, start, depending on guys like Tiao and Becker, if you can keep them and try to use these younger guys to try to get not only experience, but hopefully get some wins and then get from Zweite Bundesliga. Will it be easy? Hell no. We saw this with Hamburg, Hertha Berlin, as bad as we are. I think the Hertha Berlin story is even worse because they spent lots of money and they're in the same position as we are. And the whole damning thing about this whole thing about our position at the moment is the teams that we need to catch up to against Mainz, Bielefeld. They're playing freaking like relegation teams trying to get out, and they're winning games. They're getting the results. We're not doing that. That's the whole damning thing. And I think what we know for sure is this. As the weeks go on, more people are starting to talk about us in the Zweite Bundesliga. Derek Ray had a comment today about, would you watch Schalke in the Zweite Bundesliga? Some comments have now come up in the last couple hours or so that about what happens if we do get relegated? Do we lose some positions? What positions are going to become available, right? So we look at it first, and I want to get your take on this, Critty. Some names that, they talk about the head of sporting director, manager, are all jobs that could become available if we get dropped. First, let's look at sporting candidates. The rumor is that Schalke head of youth development, Peter Knabel, is going to be as an option. Lokomotiv Moscow sporting director, Eric Stoffelhaus, former Schalke a member, and then also Mainz sporting director, Rowan Schroeder. Of these 3 names, are you familiar with them? And if you had to pick between these 3 names, any of these you think would be a good fit for Schalke?
Well, weren't they involved with the Knabenschmiede?
Yeah. Knabel is for sure. And
Knabel. That's the name that I recognize out of the 3 that you mentioned. I mean, I guess because I recognize his name, I would pick him. I mean, this is a Schalke podcast, so obviously everyone listening knows. But for those who don't know, who don't follow Schalke, the Knabenschmiede is like one of the best developmental, like anything in all of Europe. Like it has produced so many great players throughout the years, and that's what Schalke has been known for is bringing the Manuel Neuers into the Bundesliga, bringing Leon Goretzka into the Bundesliga. Leroy Sané, all those guys. I mean, they're household names today. But where did they start out? They started out in Gelsenkirchen. So, I mean, honestly, Richard, I would have to. The other 2 I'm not too familiar with, but obviously anybody that was involved with the Knabenschmiede, then I would probably have to. I
would agree with you as well. Person. Jack, do you feel the same way? Would you lean with somebody that has the Schalke running through their veins? I mean, Stoffelhaus has in the past, and he left in 2009, but. What would you if you tip your hat to any of these guys, any of these 3 guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I'm educated enough on the merits of these 3 individuals relative to each other to like definitively say I think this guy is the best goalie for it. I think the question at this moment in time is, do you want to promote from within? Is the situation internally so toxic and messed up that like the idea of having like a Schalke guy, quote unquote, come in to fill that role is actually maybe not the appeal that it might typically have?
Yeah, that's fair.
We're such a disaster, and I know that despite what's happening at the first team level, Knabenschmiede is still, they're kind of doing their own thing still to some extent, and that they haven't been touched by that as much. But you wonder if you just say, hey, maybe we actually need to go outside to like some other organization that is not us at the moment to bring in some fresh perspective and potentially some competency.
I would agree with that, but except the one club that's linked that's not ours is Mainz, and we've had the experience we've had with Mainz, and Mainz hasn't been that great in the last few years as well. So I don't know if I want to necessarily go to Schroeder. So if I'm tied to those three guys, I'd probably say Knabel just ahead of Stoffelhaus. Stoffelhaus was with Schalke early on during our success in the early 2000s. But like you said, I totally am with you in terms of maybe we have to really look a hard look about what we should be doing, because we want to have those values still, but not necessarily the turmoil that we've had lately. So no, that's a good shout. And a more interesting shout for a sporting director candidate. So if Jochen Schneider is leaving at the end of June, some names are coming up: Grotterfreud, Rashid Azouzi, Osnabrück's sporting director Benjamin Schmides, and Borussia Mönchengladbach's head of scout Stefan Korell. Now, while Gladbach's head of scout sounds good, I don't know what kind of experience he has to become a sporting director. My initial take is that he would be great for scouting, maybe to have along with the guys that we have. Of these three guys, I honestly don't know. Schmides he's a young guy, he's 35, but
Greuther Fürth is doing pretty well in the second tier right now.
Yeah, and that's who I would probably lean toward is Rashid Azouzi, I think.
But Osnabrück, I mean, holy shit.
They're about to get relegated. They might get relegated.
Yeah.
Gladbach, again, head of scout.
Yeah. I like I said, Fürth, they've been they had that one season where they came up into the top flight and they got absolutely trounced. That was years ago. It's almost, I think, 10 years ago at this point. But they've been stable in the second league for, a decade. And even beyond that, really, they had like I said, they had the one pop-up year into the top flight. But they've been 15, 16, going on 20 years now in the second league. So, I mean, they've been up this year. They're doing really well. So, I mean, I guess by default, you would say performance, push the button while it's hot, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. And Dirk had a really good comment that I really am interested, because Jack and I have talked extensively about the 50+1, right? And we've heard rumors about Schneider and all the board members talking about maybe we should deviate from that and maybe not necessarily go with the Bayern model, but change it up. Dirk is saying here in the comments, he says, what about if we drop the club and become a sellout, and sell to a bigger club or a big owner, or go away from 50+1? What are your thoughts on the whole 50+1, Curdy?
I'm very, I'm not really for it. I think it's a little bit outdated. I've made this argument on a couple other podcasts too, that through the years, that I'm not a big fan of it. I think that it is something that keeps, it's like these small clubs, they take great pride in it. But if you look at it, Bayern hasn't really been abiding by it for a long time. Yeah. 1860 Munich, they totally flushed it down the toilet. They're back on their way. I've actually kept up with the third league this year as well, and they're in position. They're not in the top three, but I think they're fourth right now. So that's in position to possibly climb back up. Anyways, that guy's an idiot that runs them. So you have to be careful what you get when you do away with it. You do want to make sure that if you do away with the 50+1, that you actually get good ownership. And the majority of the decision makers are going to be making good decisions. But they talk about some things are traditions and some things are not meant to be broken, and other things need to move on as the time progresses. That 50+1 rule, I understand why it was invoked. I understand why it was made. But again, if Bayern, if they buy who they want to buy, and they do it without any questions, any concerns whatsoever. They don't. I mean, they're the ones that have Qatar Airways or whatever as a sponsor on their stadium, this, that, and the other. So I mean, they're considered the ultimate sellouts in Germany. So I mean, if the biggest club can do it, that's won fucking 10 titles in a row now, made the league completely unwatchable in the first place, in terms of like who's going to win. You're always looking at who's going to finish between 2nd and 18th because of Bayern. Yeah, I mean, why shouldn't everybody go out and get their own?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of survival. It's a matter of staying with the trend. I mean, staying relevant. If you're going to stick to your guns, and I'm all about tradition, but if at some point you just don't become relevant anymore, You need to adapt with the times, I think, and how you do that, I don't know exactly. I know they've been.
Well, I'm just saying, if you had someone like Citigroup, for example, I'm not, let's just name one of the big ones. If you had someone like Citigroup that came in, remember where Manchester City was in 2003, 2004, 2004, 2005? They were bottom of the Premier League. They were a joke.
Yeah.
They were in Manchester.
Laughing stock. Huh? Yeah. I mean, so they come in, and now they're multiple-time league champions, multiple-time League Cup champions, multiple-time FA Cup champions, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. They do this because they buy players like Kevin De Bruyne, who came from the Bundesliga, from Wolfsburg originally before he went to City. They do this by buying players like Gundogan, who came from Dortment.
So you're saying we need chic money. We need chic money.
Yeah, I'm saying like if you look at City, if you look at Chelsea, look at Chelsea. Chelsea has two of the best German players in Kai Havertz and Timo Werner on the squad right now, because
we don't say their names on the podcast. I'm just kidding.
So I just named you 4 excellent German players. Oh, Leroy Sané obviously also went to City. Another Schalke player who was amazing. Brought up just a little while ago that he came up through the Royal Blue system. I mean, there's a reason why they can buy these players, and Schalke, for example, can't afford to keep them. Or someone like Werder Bremen. I don't know if you guys, how far you go back, but I could go back 03, 04. Werder Bremen had this kid from, he wasn't a kid, he was actually older, but Ailton. And they won the league title. They actually beat Bayern. They were steadily ahead of them between 7 and 10 points all season. Bayern had Roy Mackay. They had Oliver Kahn. They had a really good squad. But Werder Bremen actually, 03, 04, won the league. And what happens to that team? Well, they get to the Champions League. They get a little bit of money, but all they care about is the money. Just a small little bump. They don't make it out of the group stage, and they're competitive in the league. But ever since then they've steadily dropped a little bit, from first to second, from second to fourth, and from fourth they stayed in I think they made it about 4 or 5 years, and then after 2010, Werder Bremen 2010, 2011, they just dropped right off the planet, and now they've been fighting relegation. And that's the thing, and you're seeing these clubs who. I'm sorry, but the way to go right now, it's looking like the success is RB Leipzig. That's the way.
Pretty surely you can understand why some Schalke supporters. I mean, in a vacuum, they'd probably feel that way, obviously, and I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying, especially in this context, surely you can understand why some Schalke supporters, when they feel like everything else is already being taken away from them, don't want to lose that as well, because what else do we really have to hold on to at this point? We're probably going to get relegated. Our status in the league and our sort of reputation is taken a massive hit. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of that Varane designation. If that's important to the supporters, I can understand why that's kind of now we're supposed to give this up too. In addition to everything else that we're already kind of giving up in the course of this season. So,
it depends. It depends, yeah. Jack. I just want to, I love what you said, because actually, my team where I'm from over there, I was FC Nuremberg. Nuremberg is actually, I grew up 45 kilometers from Nuremberg. They have actually.
No wonder we get along so well.
Yeah, well, sisters.
It's not the Schalke Dortmund thing; it's the Nuremberg Schalke thing.
There you go. There it is.
Yeah, Nuremberg Schalke sister clubs. But the thing was, they back around 92, 93, when I first started watching the Bundesliga, they fell off. That's when they really got relegated. And then from there, they went actually into the Regionalliga. And it's this is Nuremberg. This is 8-time German champions, Nuremberg.
Yeah.
They have accepted, this is the thing, Jack, that Schalke fans have to, if you're going to give up things, you're talking about what else do you give up? Mm-hmm. Nuremberg, who was a German powerhouse. They were a traditional German power for many, many decades. And then it started falling off slowly but surely. And then the 1990s came, and it fell completely off. Are you okay with being a top 30 team, a top 30 club, and saying, hey, occasionally, like Nuremberg, occasionally we'll get to the top flight and we'll go right back down. But we got there one season. Same thing with Hannover. Hannover's got to ask themselves the same question, I thought for a minute there, Stuttgart looked like they were in the same situation. They seem to have stabilized, but, we'll see. Schalke, to me, is different than all of the rest of them because they have been a power for decades in the league, and they have been in the Champions League, and they've had success domestically. They've won DFB Pokals. They've done great things. Whereas Hamburg has been on a downward spiral for 15, 16 years. And that's the thing is the Schalke, not having Schalke in Europe representing Germany, to me is a fucking shame.
It is. And I think another thing we know for sure is that we're going to need a manager next season. Schalke doesn't, obviously Gross was just a Band-Aid to the end of the season. Some I guess people they've been speculating that could probably take over in this fight to Bundesliga if that's where we go. Whatever happens next season, Paderborn manager Stefan Baumgart, who's doing pretty good with them. Spartak Moscow manager, some people may have heard of Domenico Tedesco, and former Darmstadt manager Dimitrios Gramozis, excuse me. Any thoughts on those, Critty? Because I know what.
Okay, there's one name that stands out, right? Okay, Tedesco, really? Is this for real?
I mean, it's build.
He's doing well. Yeah. He's doing well at Spartak right now. He's
doing well.
He didn't extend his contract. His contract's over at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But why would he come back?
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. It's like if Tedesco feels slighted or spurned by Schalke, I don't think anyone can blame him for that. And if he has no interest in coming back, I wouldn't blame him for that. You do wonder, though, if he actually did care about the team and isn't just kind of like ready to move on with his career permanently. If he actually did like Schalke and cares about it, you wonder if somebody who has, not gotten somebody promoted, but helped save a team from relegation in now, would that challenge of getting Schalke back up and the ability to potentially actually like build more of the squad to his liking would appeal to him. I don't know that it would, but yeah.
I was on the same podcast with you gentlemen the last time when Tedesco won the derby. Okay. And the scenes from there in the Feldins Arena, amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was on top of the world. And he, like I said, got to the Champions League, got to the knockout stage, lost to Pep Guardiola's Man City. Again, no shame in that whatsoever.
Right. It would be a step down.
They have to. If Schalke is going to hire a manager, they have to have some damn patience.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Let the man have 2, 3, 4 seasons.
Critty, I think we talked about Weinziel. If he had given the opportunity, maybe he would have turned it around.
Yes, I think so.
I agree with you.
What he did, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we do have to get off the merry-go-round at some point. It can't be a revolving door, but it's Schalke, so I mean that's fool's gold, probably.
Yeah, but if you look at the other two names, Baumgart's doing okay with Paderborn. I'd rather go with Gramozis, the German or the Greek German, to be as another name because Darmstadt's doing pretty well this season. But with these three names, I'm gonna lean towards Tedesco a little bit, but doesn't mean he's gonna want a job, right? Because it is gonna be a step down to the second league, possibly. Does he want that? And then to Jack's point, then we know if he does take the job, if he does get offered and he takes the job, it's because there is a passion there that he didn't feel spited and he wants to try to prove something. And kind of like the reason Kolasinac came back is trying to save the club and bring him back to relevance. Maybe that's what if that happens, great. But I mean, we need to figure something out no matter what because the merry-go-round has to end and this downward slide needs to end.
That's what's interesting.
Part of the issue here. That's part of the whole story here is that at the first sign of panic, they sack a manager. And I mean, that's Tedesco.
We're not Real Madrid.
Right. You're without the success. They sack the manager without the success.
Exactly.
We have Omar Mascarell, so we're basically Real Madrid. Real Madrid light.
I saw the passion Tedesco brought to the touchline, right? I saw he actually loved his players. He loved this club. He was in it. He was in it to win it. Mm-hmm. I just don't understand, how a guy goes from that. And of course, this is the problem too. Schalke is playing Dreifachbelastung. They're playing DFB Pokal, regular season, and Champions League. That season when he got sacked, they always talk about rosters in Germany. If you listen to their podcast, Kader.
We had no depth.
Well, Schalke didn't have the roster to compete on 3 fronts at that point in time.
Yeah.
But you build towards that. So you understand, hey, we're going to get some cash from being in the Champions League knockout stage. It's going to be some nice cash. So maybe you take a step back and you finish 7th, 8th, 9th, or whatever. But you build off of it. But they said, we're Schalke. We finished 9th. We finished 10th. You're sacked. So Tedesco's, back in the unemployment line, and Schalke's searching for another manager. It's going to be
pretty. And the other thing is, people like myself actually, we're fairly resistant to the idea of a Tedesco return, because as much as we all like Tedesco in terms of who he was as a figure and what he meant to the club and how he approached things, bad football under Tedesco at times.
And how often has returns done well?
And even when we came in second in the league, Richard and I all season long, and Richard and Critty, you remember this, we're saying there are issues with this team. Yeah. The offense is, our set pieces and all this kind of stuff is covering over, the cracks. Like, this is not sustainable. The squad isn't good enough. We were saying that when we were at the highest of the highs. We were saying we got to be careful here.
To his credit, though, he has corrected that somewhat at Spartak. They look more stable,
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, I think people like myself and maybe others are now more open to the idea of him returning, because we've seen several coaches after Tedesco do the exact same thing. And so the idea that it was like an issue with him has kind of gone out the window. And so he's looking more attractive than he did previously, I think.
That's true. That is true. All right.
I think it also would help too if Schalke, I don't know how you do this. This is something, Richard, I think you and I have been talking about this probably in terms of this, clubs like Schalke and even Dortmund to an extent. To retain your own homegrown players. It's hard to see someone, and you guys remember, I think 2012, 2013, the 2010 to 2012 club teams. Those guys all made a pact. Oh, we're going to stay. We're not going to leave. That was Götze. That was Gundogan. That was Mats Hummels. That was Lewandowski. Lewandowski was the first person to break the dam. He was like, oh, I'm going to Bayern. And then, actually Götze was, and then Lewandowski. Yeah. And all those players said, oh, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be under Jurgen Klopp forever. As long as he's the manager, we're going to stay at Dortmund. Well, they all eventually left. Even when they make promises like that, they still leave. So, but it would be nice to see someone like Manuel Neuer go down as the greatest Schalke player in history, instead of just being another great Bayern goalkeeper behind Oliver Kahn. It would be nice to see someone like Leroy Sané, but I don't know how.
That status is reserved for Max Meyer in perpetuity. So
Fußball God.
Max Meyer is the best Schalke player of all time. We all know that.
Max Meyer was one of the biggest prospects ever to come out.
The German Messi, Critty. The German Messi.
And now he's trying to get on our podcast.
I thought that was Götze.
That's true.
He at least imitated.
Everyone's the something Messi.
That's right. True. He had a great Messi imitation in the World Cup. But no, I mean, and to what I was going to say is that without Jack, with the 50+1 rule intact, I don't think Schalke ever sees the light of day to come up with the kind of cash to pay these players what they want. If you have rich owners, you can pay rich players. Yeah. That's how the American sports model works.
I'd like enough money just to be able to keep the players,
Yeah, this will be one of the main conversations going forward for sure. This is going to be one of the huge talking points. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wish Schalke all the success in the world to stay up. I can't believe we're talking about a team that doesn't have 10 points yet. I mean, it's just insane to me, and I mean that sincerely.
We appreciate it. We do.
You're clearly a Schalke sympathizer now, so we thank you for that, for not rubbing it in our faces.
Remember, I'm a Nuremberg guy, so I'm with you.
That's true. There you go. There you go. I guess Dirk's asking you from North or South Nuremberg. That's what he wants to know.
Oh no, I was from Amberg in the Oberpfalz. So that's I'm like you take Autobahn 6, in the Oberpfalz, and you're there in about 45 minutes.
All right, on. Okay, awesome. Well, this is a conversation I feel like could go on forever, because our current plight has put us in this situation. But let's put a bow on this one. First off, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Not only do you get info on the club, but you get info on all the local fan clubs across America, North America, I should say. And then you heard about our podcast as well. Keep tuning in each week as we try to give you the latest with the Royal Blues, all the ups, the downs, all the many downs. If there are any topics you would like us to discuss, make sure you tweet us at SchalkeMerica. Hit us up on Facebook or Instagram as well. We want to give a special shout out to our cousin from the Ruhr Valley, Critty. Critty, this is your opportunity to plug whatever you want, or just tell people where they can find you on social media.
Well, the only thing that I'm plugging right now is I just hang out with my daughter all the time. So I've been taking a break from a lot of this stuff. So she's gonna be 11 months old in 2 weeks.
Because you're a good father.
Richard, what's wrong with you?
I'm I'm plugging
Schalke.
I'm plugging her and telling everybody that's where my focus is right now. But
Awesome.
no, I'm honestly Richard, George Bennett, he's reached out to me. We're talking about started maybe getting back into the podcasting here. I've been taking my 1.5 year long hiatus from the Studio Inter podcast, where I was doing the obviously the historical Inter articles, the Inter Legends series that I came up and founded with Nima. So I'm just on high. I just tweet about basically idiot Dortmund fans and Liverpool and Inter beating Milan. That's what I tweet about right now.
You had to say that right at the end, right?
We'll make sure if you do get back into the swing of things here, and obviously you have a very good excuse for not being.
Yes.
But if you do get back, we'll make sure we spread that around and share that with our.
Absolutely, guys.
You are now our second most capped guest on our show. So look at that.
Behind Marie Schulte-Bochum.
Yeah.
What's that? 4 or 5? Is that 4?
I think you're 4th. Maybe 4, maybe 5, but
I know it's definitely 4.
Yeah.
100%. So. It's either 4 or 5.
It's been too long since last time, so.
Absolutely. Let's do this again soon, gentlemen.
Go inside and get warm. Thanks for standing outside.
I'm going to. All right, guys.
Take care,
man.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JM Mangan, JMMangan on Twitter.
Very good. And as always, you can follow me at R_KHARMAN. Until the next pod comes, my friends, stay ready, stay civil, and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.